All right. Well, today's title of the webinar is Screens, Babies, and Growing Minds, a topic many of you have been requesting. Your speaker today is Dr. Nina Newman. She is a licensed psychologist with advanced training in clinical psychology, neuropsychology, and reflective practice. She specializes in early relational and family mental health, reflective supervision, and interdisciplinary systems of care. Her work focuses on supporting children's emotional, cognitive, and social development by strengthening the relational capacities of parents, caregivers, and professionals. Dr. Newman partners with healthcare providers, educators, and early interventionists to build trauma-informed, developmentally grounded services that promote the well-being of children and families. She is a core faculty in an interdisciplinary doctoral program in infant and early childhood development, where she teaches and mentors emerging scholars and practitioners. Dr. Newman also co developed New York City's Perinatal Mental Health Advanced Training Initiative for health, mental health, and early intervention providers. In addition, she designs and implements programs that help support diverse families and addresses social, emotional, and behavioral challenges across systems of care. What a wealth of knowledge. Please help me give a warm welcome to Dr. Newman.
Thank you all. I'm very happy to be here this morning. I'm looking forward to the presentation, but also to hearing your perspectives of things. So I'll get started. There we go. So as Jennifer pointed out, this is a presentation on screen time, which is a major topic for many providers, families, and for those of us teaching, because information changes all the time, and with AI in the mix, it's been an interesting time. But we're going to focus today on families and infants. So as you said, I'm Nina Newman. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I would love to go around the room and ask everybody who you are, but I didn't realize we're going to have quite so many people. So what I'd like to say is I really want this to be an interactive workshop. So I'll stop along the way during the presentation, and please feel free to ask questions or share your thoughts. There's no wrong answers. There's no silly questions. We learn by interchange with each other. And I always learn something from whatever presentation I do. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So this is what we're going to cover this morning, roughly. Screen time, why we need to pay attention to it, the brain and overall development, relationships, screen time in infancy and early childhood, screen time guidelines, breakout groups, discussions, and we'll talk a little bit about the future. So, paying attention to screen time, why it's important. It directly affects development. So it's not just 10 minutes here, an hour here. It actually has a profound effect, and more so in our infants and youngest children under the age of 3. So brain development. So we are hardwired in our brains, because we're going to do a bit of background to give you a sense of why screen time has the impact it does. We are hardwired as human beings to have certain experiences. The brain is what we call experience expected. So if you're going to be a human being, you need to do certain things in order to develop as a human being. And that's the same for all animals. Ducks imprint on their mother, their brains are wired to look at their mother to learn how to be a duck. We have to do certain things in order to develop healthily as a human being. But who we are and how the brain develops depends on what happens in terms of our earliest experiences. So the brain is experience expectant and then experience dependent. So it depends on what happens to us and what happens to our brains. So we are born with a lot of neurons, 100 billion of them. So those are the cells that we're going to use for all sorts of activities, for thinking, hearing, speaking, feeling. but they're not connected to each other. And for the brain to function in an integrated way, these cells have to form what we call networks. So in a sense, we have the foundation of the house with all the neurons, but we haven't built it yet. So our earliest experiences in infancy, and I would actually say in utero, build the house, build these networks, and make up what we call our brain architecture. This sets a lifelong trajectory of how we will function. This is really important because what happens they now even think is the first 100 days, but especially in the first 24 months of life, sets down a pattern that if you don't have intervention, if something's gone wrong, is very hard to fix later on. So the primary way we build this brain architecture is through one-on-one relationships. So we are born hardwired, experience expectant to connect to a primary caregiver. Our survival depends on it. As we know, an infant cannot survive without an adult taking care of it. So the relationships are just not nice to have, they're necessary to have. And whether or not that brain develops around positive or negative outcomes depends on the nature of the relationships in interaction with individual differences. So we all come hardwired for certain strengths and areas for growth. Then what happens is you meet your caregiver and how you're matched and what happens in that relationship with the caregiver will then start to form the brain. And this goes on for the rest of our lives. Relationships are foundational to who we are. Any questions so far on this or on the brain? Okay. So we think of relationships as nice and needing for comfort and support, but they also form, they're needed for regulatory abilities. So co-regulation starts in infancy. I'm assuming some of you already know this from the jobs that you do. So the back and forth, how you make sense for the baby and how the baby understands the world. So the baby will look to the parent to mirror back to the baby what's going on inside the baby. The baby doesn't start with emotions, it starts with states. It's tired, it's cold, but they have no way to make sense of it because they haven't developed the network of the brain and they haven't developed yet an understanding of what these sensations mean. So it starts with the caregiver co-regulating the baby. Then the baby learns to emotionally regulate themselves. Then that is the foundation for self-regulation. So when you go into preschool or an early childhood program, self-regulation is one of the most important abilities a child will have through school. Self-regulation is then the foundation for social emotional abilities and building a sense of self. Speech and language is also founded in relationships. One of the things I hear a lot when I train is people have their kids watching Miss Rachel. Okay, we'll talk about Miss Rachel a little later, but you can't learn speech and language that way. You can pick up words, but speech and language are also nonverbal, meaning it's how you say things, it's the emotion about how you say things, it's whether you can read facial cues. And so you can't do that with a screen. So speech and language is founded on the relationship you have with the adults. So that also means cognitive abilities or academic functions are founded on relationships, sensory processing, how you make sense of the information coming in at you. Are things too loud, too fast, too slow, too bright? Has to do with how well the adult in the young child's life can modulate those feelings. Motor skills. Is the parent there, present? Are they urging them to walk? Are they helping them to crawl? Are they giving them feedback when they do certain motor activities? And what we call executive functions. Executive functions are those higher level thinking skills that begin in about 3 but don't solidify until your late 20s. But if you don't have a solid foundation in your early childhood, you won't be able to catch up later. It makes it very difficult. Executive functions include being able to hold information in mind, being flexible, managing emotions, planning, organizing, strategy, and controlling one's impulses, and paying attention. Any thoughts on any of these? Any questions? Jennifer, is this any? I just want to check in. Anybody has sent any questions or
Not at
thoughts?
the
We're going through this very fast.
no, not at the moment. No questions on my end.
Okay, so this is what happens and why relationships are so important. Again, they're not just nice to have, they're necessary to have. So, what does this mean in terms of screen time in infancy and early childhood? Screen time is not expected by the brain. It interferes, in fact, with face-to-face interactions and relationships. So think about what we just talked about in terms of brain development and all the other skills that children need to develop in these early years. One of the other issues is that screen time interferes with reading faces, where our brains have a very special place and for reading faces because we count on them for understanding emotions, for understanding reactions, for developing empathy and social engagement. If you're not looking at faces, real faces, not screen faces, where when you have a reaction, the face with you changes, that's critical. And with the brain and develop, so screen time, if you see what it interferes with, and I'm sorry for the typo, you see that it will directly affect brain development and functioning. Questions on this? Is this surprising to anybody? I can only see a few faces, so it's hard to. Okay. So screen time affects primary relationships, language development, sleep. There's several studies. It affects sleep in adults and profoundly affects sleep in children. Adults should not look at a screen an hour before bedtime. The same goes for children because it stimulates part of the brain that doesn't allow it to calm down. One of the other factors is that screen time, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it affects emotional regulation and attention systems. Our attention systems have really shrunk. I don't know if any of you have watched a movie prior to screen time, but it looks like it's going in slow motion. And that's in part because our attention spans have shrunk. They think that the average adult attention span's 8 seconds. And usually we should be able to attend for at least 90 minutes. So social cognition, it is screen time effects, being able, as I said, to read faces, to engage, to understand the tone of somebody's voice, because screens, even if you're looking at a person, they are reading off a cue card, they're remembering lines, they are not socially engaged, they're just throwing information at you. That is not communication in the way we want it for young children. This directly affects empathy. If you can't read a face, if you can't read people's body language or the tone of their voice, it's very hard to understand that they may be hurt or happy or they might need you, or they might need support. Very importantly, screen time affects play. As I think many of you probably know, play is essential to healthy development. It's not because the kids have a great time, we hope they do, but play actually develops cognitive skills and social emotional skills. It also supports attention and what we call working memory, which is being able to hold information in mind for a few seconds in order to use it. So let's say you're playing with three other children. You want to say something, but one of them says something, then the other says something. You have to be able to hold in mind both conversations and change what you were going to say in order to engage socially. But play is the work of children. And sitting somebody in front of a screen is not play. And they're going to miss out all those opportunities to engage and learn because we learn problem solving from play. We learn the quality of the materials we're playing with, something soft, something hard. We learn shapes and colors through play. So again, it affects learning and academics. It also affects weight. And while we don't tend to worry so much in infancy and toddlerhood, what happens is children get into what we call a sedentary or a sitting mode that really affects their body and their set point for what a healthy weight is. Something we don't directly think about when screen time comes in. Any questions about that? Jennifer, we're going to go through this fast.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and I do want to encourage if there are any questions as Dr. Newman is going through it, feel free to drop them in the chat box, even if she goes on to the next slide. This is your
I'd
time
be
to ask
happy to
questions. Yeah,
answer anything. But
yeah,
wait, but we some of these things we don't really associate with, but there is a crisis, a health crisis in children in terms of being overweight and not being physically active enough. And screen time contributes to this. It also contributes to isolation.
Good morning, Dr. Newman.
Good morning.
I just wanted to, I guess, point at something, or maybe if you can help me. What part of their development? Because I seen kids that are in front of like a phone, for example, at a store or something, and when mom tries to take it away from them, I see and I'm thinking about emotional regulation, maybe. They get so upset and they even start throwing tantrums at the store, for example, because I just
Yeah.
recently noticed to, witness, an episode like that. And he was not happy about it. And at the end, mom ended up giving the phone back, to the child because the child was not happy at all.
So many screen programs, these colors and lights, hit a system in the brain called the dopamine system. I'm giving you the big name for it because this system is rewards and pleasure and connected to addiction. Many of the programs, software programs, have directly been developed to hit the dopamine system. So people are addicted to the programs. Same for adults. They thought about this when they developed these things. So, I mean, not to overstate it, but if it's hitting the system, the child's going to be very upset that they can't constantly have this hit, what it satisfies in the brain. It sends this chemical out. And so that's why you get, to some degree, that reaction. So part of it is to wean them off it. I just read recently, if you change screens to black and white, it stops some of people wanting to engage with it, adults. This was on adults. It stops hitting that system in the same way. So that's in part why you're seeing the meltdown. So what happens is these systems in infants and young children are hitting parts of the brain that aren't ready to be tapped. So it's overdeveloping certain things that aren't ready to be developed and underdeveloping other parts that need to be developed. So you're seeing an imbalance. So, yes, you don't want your child having a complete meltdown in the store. However, that's something to pay attention to because they're not learning something from that. It's hyper focusing their brain on something that their brain shouldn't be hyper focused on. It's not good for their brain and it's developing something that's not necessary at this time. And also, think about it in that moment. It's cutting short social engagement with the parent. We don't think about it, but all it's only 5 minutes, it's only 10 minutes, but these add up. And in a week, you're talking about a significant amount of time where there's no interaction and no attunement. Does this make sense? So instead of the mother saying, I know it's hard to wait and you're bored, and looking at the child, but we have to do this right now, she hands the phone. But you learn a lot about patience, about having to wait. And if the child cries because they're bored, the mother can rock the stroller, and that might be hard. But a child needs to know something can be hard, and then they can get over it. The phone keeps them from learning. We don't want to stress the child out unnecessarily, but just in the natural course of life, these things happen. But this is also how we learn resilience. So, by using the phone in that way or any kind of screen, you're stopping the child from learning some of these really important lessons. You're encouraging them to check out and tune out, which isn't good for them and it won't be good for you later on. Your thoughts, Evelyn, on this? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, yeah, you are. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it makes sense what you're saying. Um, I guess this is just a personal question, and I know it's no screen time at all. I do have a 1 year old, and sometimes I put just so she can, you know, I guess calm herself down in a way. I'll transition when it's nap time. I started doing this, I think it's low sensory. It's like little black and white little um pictures or I don't know, cartoons on the TV. Sometimes she watches this, but it's more of like the sound, the music that is coming from it, and she goes to sleep. But it's screen, it's a TV. So
Yeah,
and
we will get
I'm
to that.
open to anything that you have to say.
We'll get to that later, but just generally, better to play music and not have the screen. Music, our brains are hardwired for music, believe it or not just because it's we enjoy it. Music helps set body rhythms. So sometimes if you see PT or physical therapy or something like that, you'll see they're playing music because it helps the brain reset the body. The body and the brain aren't separated. What happens in the body determines the body and the brain make up your mind in the sense. So the body, helping the body calm itself, soothe itself, we can do that through music. So I would encourage the music part.
Dr. Newman.
So yeah,
Hi, my name is Leslie. I just wanted to add that I have a 9 and 11-year-old, and I find that sometimes like my kids struggle with like writing, and I feel like, or even if like something becomes a little more difficult with math as they're getting along, and I feel like a lot of it is like they kind of like what you were saying, they check out because it's not an instant gratification. Like with writing, you have to like, there's a process, right? And like putting those thoughts together, but it takes time, right, to come up with that. And I
right.
feel like devices really affect kids. And it's not just my kids. I think I have a friend who's a teacher and she says like that's really hard because a lot of kids like they'll just give up because it's something like if they can't get the answer right away it's like they're done, you know? And so I think it definitely
Exactly.
affects. technology has great benefits, but it also has disadvantages, and I can see that. So what you're saying, I definitely, even like with you, obviously with younger brains, it affects, and over time, you start seeing all these effects over time, how the instant gratification is really affecting kids. Where when I was a kid, I had to go to the library. I couldn't go to Google. There was no Google. I had to like learn the Dewey Decimal System. I'm aging myself, but like those are things that like take time. And now kids, it's like you could chat GPT something really quick. So I just wanted to add that.
Leslie, I think you bring up a really important point, and that's what we're seeing. They were seeing it began about 20 years ago. There was a man at Stanford who was doing this research, and he was already seeing the signs. You're right. That instant gratification is about the dopamine system in the brain. And so we almost have to backtrack with children what that looks like and find other ways for them to feel that gratification and have perseverance is what you're talking about, because we all know that life isn't going to be instant, and quite often things don't work out, and you have to try it not one or two times, but half a dozen times to see if something works. But if you have no experience of perseverance or don't have the resilience to hang in there, that makes it difficult. And you're right, writing is about critical thinking and organizing, and that takes time. And math is the same way. And this is why this is so important. We want children to have those critical thinking skills, because when they have a problem as an adult, we don't want them just to go to an easy answer. We want them to think, well, this person is saying something, but does this make any sense? Let me think about it. And how do I make decisions? So this is what we're talking about in screen time in infancy, is we're really talking about a lifetime model. I thank you for sharing that.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Crystal. I wanted to jump in. I think that's interesting how you said about the dopamine effect with the kids, because I last week, I'm a home visitor. I was in a visit with a mom, and we've had conversations about during our visits we focus on activities and not the child being on the phone, or but it was interesting because we did the activity, and right when we were done with the activity, it was like the 3-year-old was like, okay, now I can go back on my screen time. And it was like how you explain, like an addiction almost. And it was interesting because um I've been working with this mom and encouraging more activities and more engagement. But it is kind of difficult because, as a counselor, I'm just observing and I'm supporting. But yeah, in moments like that where a mom, that's her routine, or it's an easy to go, like, oh, just to not, like how Evelyn was explaining, like they start having a temper tantrum, and it's just easy to be like, okay, here's the screen, or just leave me alone. But I really, it was very insightful to hear the dopamine, because I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, because I see that a lot in my visits with the moms that are more codependent with just being more open to the child just having screen time. But so thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I think this brings up how important it is for us to support families, because the parents need to understand that if their child's having a meltdown, it's hard, but they can cuddle them, they can talk to them, and they will get over it. I mean, I don't mean if something terrible is going on. That's a different story. But if they want that screen time, and how you wean them off of that and help them re-engage with other things. But that's giving the parents the support to do that. And also helping them not use screen time in the same way themselves. So I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but that's also another issue. Other thoughts? Anybody else? I really appreciate you all sharing your stories and your thoughts on this, because you're living it in real time. Okay. So caregivers, as we were talking about, and screen time. The adult population generally is distracted, disengaged, dysregulated, and disconnected. This is usually problematic for children. So one of the things we talk about, I mean, many of you have heard the term attachment in early childhood. That's the initial relationship with your primary caregiver. But one of the most important aspects of attachment is attunement. Are you attuned to your baby? Do you understand what's going on? What is the baby trying to tell you? Can you get into a rhythm with them or synchrony? Are you back and forth in a way that's meaningful to the baby? If you're on your screen, even if it's just 5 minutes here, just 5 minutes there, you're breaking those really important connections. It's very hard to be attuned if you're totally absorbed and distracted. Because, Krista, what you described about children being addicted, the same goes for adults. So that really also affects what we call parental reflective capacity. So reflection can mean reflecting on an activity that didn't go well, or in the moment trying to reflect on what's happening and how to manage it, which is very important if you have a screaming child. But it's also the capacity to reflect on your own feelings, and that your child might be having different feelings from you. And what are you missing? Where's the mismatch? Are you familiar with the term rupture and repair? So ruptures happen all the time. It's part of life forever. There's no getting around it because we can't mind read. But in order to understand, oh, that was a rupture and you need to repair it, you need to be able to reflect on it and you need to be paying attention. The other path is co-regulation. How do you regulate your baby or your young child? How do you stay regulated? And if you need a screen to regulate, that's a problem. It can't really regulate it. What it's doing is zoning you out. So disconnecting is not regulation. Regulation is being able to stay in your body, to be calm in your body, even in the face of your kid screaming. You have to be able to say, okay, he's not in pain. His health and safety are covered. He's good, or she's good. They just want what they want and they're having a moment. So I need to stay calm. I'll pick you up. Let's have a cuddle. It's hard not to get what you want in this moment, but you're going to be okay. You have to be present to do that. And you have to be able to reflect to do that. And you have to stay attuned. If you can't, you can see what happens to development. Does this make sense to everybody? So it's just as important for the caregivers to stay off their phones and their screens and be fully present. Now, some people work from home and have to be on screens, but then find a way to be compartmentalized about it. Like, this is my work time. If the baby's being taken care of in another way, that's fine. Some parents are home all day and they may have, you need to pay attention to what's going on with the parents. And I've worked with a lot of home visitors. Sometimes you end up with depressed parents or parents who are very stressed and don't have a support system. Cultural factors play into this as well. So I'm not saying one size fits all. We have to be very mindful of who the family is, their own cultural background, but also the culture of their family. And if they have infants, are they depressed? Are they having struggles? Are they using the phone to check out because they're having other mental health issues? We need to pay attention to all these factors and to help the parent be more present. Because who's ever the primary caregiver, and sometimes it's a grandparent or an aunt, an uncle, they have to be present for the child to develop in a healthy way. Thoughts on this? And we'll be smiling, Crystal. Do you?
Yeah, because I wrote down, I don't know if I wrote it down right, but how you said disconnection is not regulation. Like how I mean, I think I'm guilty of it sometimes where I'm like overwhelmed. And I just feel like, oh, let me just scroll on my phone real quick to kind of regulate myself. That's what I normally tell myself, but I will not be doing that anymore now that
We
you share
all
that.
we're all guilty of it. I mean, sorry, we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, but it's just so easy to pick up the phone and start scrolling versus going outside and taking a deep breath and connecting with nature and doing other ways to regulate. So that was refreshing to hear.
Self-care is really important. I know that many parents don't have a lot of time to do that. I'm not saying take an hour and just do you. That's not really realistic for many people. But 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there adds up. Take a walk, go outside, breathe, do a body check-in where you put your feet on the ground and say, okay, flat on the ground, say, okay, my feet are on the ground. What do you feel? I feel the hard ground. What do my legs feel? You can do a body check like that and while you breathe. That can help. Or put the baby in the stroller, take a walk. If you can do something physical to calm your body, that's regulation. It's usually body up. You can't talk yourself into calming down if you're very distressed and dysregulated. It has to be body up, which we don't talk enough about. How can you calm your body down? You know, when people say, I'll take a walk to clear my mind, that's exactly right. I'm going to do something physical so my mind can rest for a moment and my body can reorganize itself and regulate, and then I'll be able to think clearly. So I think about this too, that checking out is not regulation. And I have to practice it as well. So you're not alone. Just because you know all this information doesn't make it doable every day. So I just, there is no such thing as perfection. And I can't emphasize that enough. That we all have a number of stresses on us, especially these days, from inside and outside. And so how do we stay calm in the face of that and not judge ourselves too harshly if today wasn't our most ideal day? There's tomorrow too. So we got to give ourselves grace as well. I really
I
can't emphasize that enough. Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I think it's become very hard, I think, in modern society. I think back like before, I feel like parents had more of a support system, a bigger village. And I feel like there is a crisis of amongst parents where we're like isolated. Um, where everyone's just busy because maybe like the grandparent that could help is still working because the cost of living is so high and they can't help. Whereas opposed to like 20, 30 years ago, there was like someone at home or there was more of a stay-at-home parent. But now, like the idea of having that is hard because I mean, who can afford to be live on one income here in LA County? And I think like I'm a home visitor as well, and a lot of our families are migrant families and they're here by themselves. They have nobody. And so I think reaching for your phone is like one like an escape really because you have nobody else and you get overwhelmed by all the messaging you're hearing, what's happening in the world, but like if your basic needs aren't being met, you're not like able to pay for groceries, you're not able to pay for your rent, that in itself is a dysregulation. And so it's hard to
Huge.
like find ways to like center yourself and be centered and then be attuned to your child. And I'm not saying like, I'm just saying like that's what I'm seeing. And I think also for myself, like it's hard. My kids are older, but when I do have a rupture and I tell them I recognize it and I apologize and I said, you know what, I'm so sorry. Like I'm just like really overwhelmed with like I have to do this and that. And then like whatever is happening, just like, so it's not anything you did. And so I apologize because there is a rupture. And so I try to mend that rupture. But I just wanted to point that out, that that's the stuff like I see with parents, and it's hard. But yes, like you could do simple things like going for a walk, but sometimes like now even the neighborhoods, like for
Yeah,
us home visitors, like there's like a lot of homeless people, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of stuff that makes it kind of dangerous, or even the parks. But I think, yeah, it's like finding your joy in such a tumultuous time is really important for all of us, including parents, or especially for parents.
I couldn't agree more with you, Leslie. I think we have so many enormous stressors and we live so isolated. I think after back problems, depression is the number one health problem in the Western world, not mental health, but health. And I think that is because we live disconnected and we don't live in communities the way we need to. I know I wish I had a magic answer for that. It's something that affects every last one of us and all the people we work with. And it's even scarier if you feel like you're going to walk out of your house and someone can pick you up. And in LA County, that's a reality. So I think the best we can do is to have this information and try to come up with a working plan that maybe even asking parents what they might like to do in the house or something that can give them 5 minutes of calm, like painting with your kids or doing Play-Doh or doing something. You don't have to spend a lot of money to make things with the children. Kids don't need all the material stuff they're being sold. We have to find ways to make sure that families can do some things that are manageable for them. And that's why it's very important to look at each family, what their situation is. I mean, in one family, when I was training the home visitors, they said they had a baby, an 18-month-old, that was red flagged for autism because he was screaming all day long and kicking at his mother. And I said, what's going on with the mother? They said, she's totally non-responsive. She has no support system, doesn't leave the couch, won't go to the park, disengaged from the baby. She had postpartum depression that had gone untreated. And that baby's reaction was not inappropriate for the fact he had no caregiver, no present caregiver. So the child wasn't autistic. The mother needed help. But we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of, and that's a separate topic for another day, but we're seeing a lot of issues like that where children are getting overdiagnosed or misdiagnosed with autism and ADHD because family life is so stressful. So I think the best we can do is gather resources to see if there's anything we can do. Did not mean to sidetrack on it, but it's all interrelated. And so we do our best to minimize the screen time as the way to fix a problem that needs other intervention.
Can I
Okay,
share something, Dr. Newman?
sure.
Something that just happened maybe about a week ago. So my baby just turned 1 year old, and I want to say 90% of the time when I'm interacting with her, I put my phone away. I'm not on my phone, so we do one-on-one, and I make sure that I'm connected. I had my phone right next to me because I was expecting a text from my other son. And then I had my phone, and then my husband was sitting on the couch too, and he even noticed. I grabbed my phone, and because I disconnected from her for like a second, she, with her little hand, she literally like hit my phone, kind of like, "Hey, you're not here, you're not present." So I'm like, "Oh my goodness." That just like it was. I mean, I laughed for a moment, but I knew she was trying to get my attention.
She was, and she needed your attention. Young children, I often hear they say they just want my attention. I said they do, but young children don't want your attention because they want to be the center of attention. They want your attention because they need you. You're either regulating them. They need the engagement to grow. We're driven to survive and to thrive. And so she was letting you know that you weren't present. What happens is you are a very responsive mother. You got it. But for parents who are checked out, they miss that opportunity and then the child stops asking and withdraws. Believe it or not, little babies can be depressed. So that was a really great example. Thank you. And thank you, Leslie, for bringing that, what you brought up. It's really important to keep in mind. Okay, so these are the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines for screen time. 0 to 18 months, no screen time. Unless you're co-viewing with your child, chatting with a family member, and you are moderating the conversation. 18 to 24 months, very limited, no more than half an hour a day. I'm guessing it's 15 minutes. High quality program and co-viewing with a loving caregiver. Adults should be narrating and explaining content. 2 to 3 years old, up to 1 hour a day, high quality co-viewing with a parent or loving caregiver. Adults should narrate and explain content. If it were up to the American Academy of Pediatrics, no child would have a screen under the age of 5. They've done this because they realize it's a losing battle, because of the profound impact it has on brain development, social emotional development, and cognitive development, and speech and language. We're seeing a lot of children coming into preschool with speech and language issues because of it.
Dr. Newman,
Yes.
sorry, for my understanding, and I hope also for the rest, can you elaborate a little bit more about what co-viewing is?
Co-viewing is you are sitting with your child, hopefully with an arm around your child, and talking to them. So, what are we seeing? So, what is happening? And explaining the content to them as you go. But you're socially engaged with them over what you're watching. Does that help, Jennifer?
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to just to visualize what that looked like, and that could be a show for the child, but it's kind of being engageful and right, just it's
Right.
kind of you teaching the child, your child.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
So let's say they're watching, I don't know, Sesame Street or something, you're sitting with them. So what letter is that? He's singing the letter A. That's part of the alphabet. A. What words start with A? Apples start with A. You
Yeah. Now, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my experience and
please.
right, but for I have a 16-month-old and I know screen time is not good, right? But what I do is right now he's been into the phase of learning animal sounds. And so there's a show uh, that we watch together, and I pause it every time, right? Like an animal comes up and that makes the sound. I pause it and I have him mimic the sound. So it's kind of what you're talking about, right? Like you're engaging with the child. But I always wondered whether that was still bad, right? Um, you
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah, no, I really hope that this isn't about shaming anybody. We're living in messy times, There's a lot going
Yeah.
on, and
No,
I don't want to shame anybody. So I
no,
hope
no.
that's not how it's coming across.
No, it's not coming across that way, but I think naturally like I need to hear this conversation, I mean this information myself, but naturally too, just seeing this, it makes me think about it, right? Like on my personal level and my child, but it is a good thing to hear it. I think everybody needs to hear this and but it's reassuring, you know what I mean? And thank you for explaining that co-viewing perspective. Someone did ask in the chat box, can you define high quality programming?
Okay, so there are a lot of cartoons, and you'll see it in my next slide, that very fast, bright lights, flashing lights, lots of colors, lots of activity, and moving at a very quick pace, like boom, boom, boom. That's not high quality programming. It's overloading the brain. So how many of you remember Mr. Rogers? I mean, okay, that's probably high quality programming. He went at a certain pace. He spoke directly to the children. Nothing was moving fast. It was hand puppets. And he usually talked about important things. That might be high quality. Now, I know a lot of people use Miss Rachel, but from what I've understood about Miss Rachel, too fast, too bright, too quick. It's not great. Sorry. I'm going to mispronounce your name, I think. Cytherea?
Oh, hi. Yes, I agree with Dr. Newman. You will mention about screening. So for me, like I agree with like everything that you mentioned here, because based on my past experience, because I was work at the school for 14 years as a teacher aide, so I work with children. I kind of like understand exactly what you mentioned here, and also about screening and the television, because these days, so when I work with client, I always when come to delay speaking, so I always mom always concerned about speak. Right. So I say, well, because for the welcome baby, we doing screening for 9 months. And of course, baby not speaking or baby just learn how to make sound. So that's why I always encourage mom, limited time of TV, digital medias and other thing, because kid nowadays, you see them with iPad and iPhone instead of engage with parents. So that's when I work with parents, I always encourage like limited all those, and children need to learn from when parents speaking. They
Yeah.
need to read parent lips, just like you mentioned about Mr. Roger, because he speak directly to the children, and the children able to read lips. So with words and other things. So, but the cartoon this day, it just only sound. So I have mom always concerned like, oh, how come my children not able to learn, speaking. So I always, like provide those kind of education. First of all, is educating parent to understand what, the concept and what is work best for their children. Thank you for sharing today.
Oh, you're welcome. I think that's really important because a lot of parents don't know this information. They may not think they're enough either. That's the other thing. If you've got very stressed parents who are struggling with basic needs. Sathari, okay. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay. Struggling with to meet basic needs, which many families are. If you look at the statistics, almost half. They may not feel enough for their kids sometimes. Or they'll see there's so much bombardment of media and people who have many material things who do this and that. So we need to focus on them that they are enough. And that even if they're in the kitchen with you, if you're making dinner or you pick them up from daycare and have to go to the market, rather than hand them a phone, talk to them in the market. Oh, we need tomatoes. What color are tomatoes? You can narrate your activities with them and look them in the face from time to time. If you're in the market in the cart, say, can you help me? Let's put the tomato in the cart. That's hugely important and makes a huge difference. They will learn more from that time with you in the market than they will sitting in front of the screen or being handed the phone. Or let them help you make dinner or put things away. It's not chores to young children. They don't get that. It's play. They're learning. So I think we need to help parents understand that 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there adds up. And it doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be fancy. That they are the most important thing the child has. So I hope I answered your question, Jennifer, but it's just narrating, and I'm trying to think of what might be good content for a 16-month-old, but it sounds like you already have a sense of that. Sort of the less lively, the better. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions on this? I mean, the fact remains that they're going to go into school and they're going to be shown a screen. Silicon Valley made a pointed effort to make sure laptops were in schools from very young ages. and hit certain systems because they knew they'd have lifelong customers. And so some of it's really helpful. I'm not saying all screens and internet or AI are bad, because it's really helpful for medicine. It's really helpful for all sorts of industries. But we need to teach our children how to use it and when it's appropriate. We need to do the same for ourselves. In Finland, they actually start in preschool teaching children what the uses are and when it's appropriate and when it's not, so it doesn't become their master. Okay. So, we've talked about some of this. So what to avoid? Infants using screens alone. So they should not be left in the crib, the bed, or the stroller with a phone or a laptop. Had stories where the mother propped the screen up in a 9-month-old's crib. Not good. Okay, fast-paced content, bright and or flashing lights. Screens emit a type of blue light, which is really not great for developing brains. It overdevelops parts of the brains and stops other pieces that need to develop. Somebody asked me a question about television and screens on in the background. Also not okay. It's very distracting and it doesn't allow people to be present. Screen time during meals and screens before bedtime. Stop at least 1 hour before bedtime. That's for children and parents. Anybody who's having a hard time sleeping might want to think about not using their screen an hour before bedtime. Questions on this? If you're doing it, if your families are doing it, you might just want to tell them it's going to take a little while to get used to not doing these things. It's like weaning yourself off of something like caffeine or something like that.
How do you convince an 18-year-old?
Oh,
my son at home. I mean, we talk about it. I tell him, make sure you get some rest, make sure you're not on the screen, make sure you, but of course, he still does it.
That's a whole other workshop on young adults and adolescents on screens. There are a lot of mental health problems that we're seeing attached to the use of screens, and not feeling like you're alive unless you can see yourself on social media, or the constant need for selfies, or everybody's connected, but no one's connected. One of the things they're seeing in the 20s is that a lot of them won't end up in relationships, or they'll end up living alone because they're not building relationships that they did a generation ago. Because everybody's doing it on phones and they're living isolated. A lot of people work from home. So there are many issues that are coming up with that. I mean, I have a nephew who's in his early 20s, and his father called me when he was in his teens. He said, I can't get him off the screen. I said, you've got to. He made him join some outdoor group and threw him outside. I said, yeah, that's it. And it's helped. But it's part of the culture, and we need to get in front of it, not being reactive to it. I don't think these things are hopeless, and I don't mean to say it that way. I just think if we see what the problems are, then we're able to fix them. If we ignore them, they won't get fixed. We really need to be supportive of all our young people from 0 to 30. So, most important thing, screens, I know someone brought this up earlier, should not be used as calming tools. They're not actually calming, they're disconnecting. And we want the child to learn how to self-soothe and calm themselves. It's fine, music's great. Having them dance to music before they go to sleep, doing something with their body can be calming. I know a family that does dance party every night. They play music and the child gets to dance. These are all really good things for calming bodies down. You know, they have some of those exercise balls and maybe the kids roll on them. Those are some of the things they use for children who have sensory issues. But a lot of our kids have sensory issues considering they're using screens. So doing things like that can be ways to calm themselves. Thoughts on this? Water play in the bath, cups, things like that, like old school stuff can really help children calm their bodies. Because while all this technology has moved forward, we're still human beings. We haven't evolved past being human beings. We're hardwired to belong to each other and we're hardwired to be physical in order to calm ourselves down. Thoughts and questions on this? And again, not every day are you going to get all this right or perfect. It's just that's not the goal. It's to get up and try it again and maybe help our families to understand. There'll be moments when things don't go quite the way we want them to, but these are goals. Oh, can you pronounce your name for me? I feel bad.
I'm Sitari.
Sittery. Okay,
Yeah,
Sittery.
Sitari.
Yeah.
Because just like what you just mentioned, like the rising of the social media and the available of the use of products, and it's not just like in the United States, but it's all around the world. And
Everywhere.
you see a lot of violence is coming out of it. And way back, my children, when my children grew up, we don't have all those things for them. So seem like we do a lot of play activity and sport, music, or go to the park. And but nowadays, and you see all kinds of violence that children experience, and through this you know screening things. So it it's about like how to limit it. So
And I think how to develop in our children empathy. I think that's really important and how we support them in reading people's faces and reading people's feelings. Because you're less likely to act aggressively if you understand that it has consequences. Okay, so I thought we'd go into breakout rooms for a little while, if that still works, Jennifer. And I don't know how many people are in the room because I can't see it.
We have 66 of us in the room, about 64, not including you and I.
Okay, so 60. How many rooms do you think?
Do you want to do them rooms of how many? Maybe two? Do you want to do, or do you want to do groups of three? I think it depends.
Maybe groups, well, because it's a big groups. If we do groups of 6, what do you think?
Yeah, that works.
Okay,
Yeah, okay. And then for how long would you?
maybe 10 minutes. I'm mindful everybody has their schedules.
Yeah. Karen,
So
you have a question?
Yeah, Jennifer, this is Karen. We're a group of 5 already here with our team. We're all in the same room. That's why we haven't had the camera on because we're all far away from the camera. Can we just be a breakout room by ourselves instead of
sure. I mean, that's
like
fine.
doubling the
However,
size of any other group?
That works,
that's,
Karen. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then just come back with one question and an idea that you might want to share with the group.
Okay. As I am putting these together, uh, oh, you have the question in the screen, right? Okay. 1 second. Let me find
And then
Karen.
1 second if we do that happen. Yeah, oh, yeah. One quick sec. Sorry, this went over. While Jennifer's doing that. One of the things we want to think about is creating media plans and alternative activities with families. How can we encourage them to have screen-free bedrooms, have consistent daily limits, prioritizing play, reading, and outdoor activities, keep holding in mind the culture and context of each individual family, listen, respect, and educate, and brainstorm together. Help them engage in together with the parent, come up with a media plan for their kids and what might be some alternatives. So that might be something you take into this group. Don't know why it skipped that slide.
All right. Hortensia, I did see your message, so I'm also putting you on a separate room, and just go ahead and do the activity together. Okay. Dr. Newman, I am ready to send them out. Again, this is going to
Okay.
be for 10 minutes, and then you are in groups of about 6 to 7, just depending on the team. Okay. I will see you
I'll
all.
share for a minute. Yeah.
Yep, I will see you all back in 10 minutes.
Jennifer, you want me to go into a room with you or just stay here?
You could stay here.
Okay.
Yeah. And Merita, are you having trouble logging into your room?
No, I'm at really adventurous. So that's what we meant with Hortensia. It's Janet and Carol. So if you
Got
can
it.
get 4 of us. Sorry, I
Oh,
didn't put their names.
not a problem. Okay. Yeah.
You can just move them, I guess, all into that one room.
Yeah, yeah. So let me go ahead and do that. Where's the Merita?
We're all sharing.
Oh, okay. Okay, here we go. Move to 12. And then Carol, are you in also with Hortensia? Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna put you in that room, okay?
Okay.
And just accept it. And then Hortensia, also accept. Let me see. Move to 12. Oh, I moved you to 11. I meant to move you to 12. Okay, just Hortensia, accept room 12 for me, please. Mm,
Is she there?
I don't know. She needs to accept room 12.
You could send her a message?
Yeah, she. Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Okay. All right. This is
I
great.
I hope it's what you wanted and
Yes. Yes, it's going really great and they're all engaging and which I really appreciate. Yeah, it's going great.
oh good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. It's overwhelming and I really don't want people to think they failed or hurt their children.
No.
It's complicated.
No, but you know what? Naturally, Dr. Newman, I think, and I was talking to Catherine about this, like naturally, you do feel some self of guilt, but it's not because of your content. I think it's just like we all in this society have fallen into the technology and
All of us.
so yeah, all of us. And so I think everybody is. thinking about work here, but it's also very personal. And it's very personal to me. And um, I think everything you've hit on, like I work from home majority of the time, and my husband works in the morning sometimes. So I'm by myself with the baby and I'm trying to work, but I'm also trying to like interact with him. But then I really have to take a meeting. So what do? I do fall into like putting him on in my head like an educational TV show so it could allow me to work, but it's so hard. It is very difficult. And what I do try to do is teach him, have those teachable moments as he's watching something, and it makes me feel a little better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
does. I don't know what, I don't have the magic answer, and I was
I know.
trying to tell them that it's, if we know, then we're aware of it,
Yeah,
and what we choose, and if you need it, that's what you do. I mean, I wish Mr. Rogers was on because for some reason,
I
what
know.
he worked with a psychologist for the 35 years. He was very intentional about what he was doing and what he was saying to children. And my kids, even though they were older, they're older, but when they watched Mr. Rogers, it was older then, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah,
that was their favorite show. It was interesting.
yeah. I'm
And
gonna
it's
let me let Maureen in.
sure.
I want to see if she wants to join a breakout room. Hello. Everyone is currently in breakout rooms. I'm just gonna go ahead and play. Were you on a breakout room? Did you get kicked out or
Yeah, I don't know if my tablet overheated. It looked like a phone call was coming through and then it my screen went blank and then I was trying to yeah, I was
no problem? Do
out.
you remember
Three?
three? Okay, perfect. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and put you back in there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Have you heard of Daniel the tiger?
Oh, yes.
Is it true that that's made from by a psychologist?
It might be. I mean, Daniel the Tiger was one of Mr. Rogers' characters,
Yeah, it could because Catherine's the one that told me about it. And so my son, although I speak English fluently, I'm only teaching my son Spanish right now. It's only Spanish. So I did put Daniel the Tiger, and it's a very appropriate, like proper show,
right?
you know?
Yeah, I would think it would be.
Yeah, very appropriate. Very mature, if that's even, you know what I mean? Like it's a little tiger, but it's very, oh, I don't know what happened here. Um, very mature cartoon for y- the way the manners is being taught there. Again, it's screen time, but like it is one of the shows that reminded me of Mr. Rogers, and I didn't know that it was one of his characters.
I mean, when I first saw Mr. Rogers with my kids, I thought, well, they like this and they loved it because he was talking to them, his affect, his emotions. He was mindful of everything he did. I
Yeah,
don't know if you can find an old one of it and see if your son likes it, but
I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna look into it, but now that you mentioned Mr. Rogers, because I don't like Miss Rachel, I don't like none of those. And I've noticed that they do a lot of bright colors, and I must
right.
like you mentioned, that's one of the things that I think they do to catch kids' attention and for views and
I agree
uh
with you.
and I did hear about the controversy of this other person called Blippi. It's a male. Um and
You're not
he
familiar. Yeah,
no, but he uses a white background but brings out very like extravagant colors, and I can see how that's kind of a way of them pulling kids into, and it's so interesting.
it's overstimulating.
Overstimulate. Yeah, there you go. That's the right word for it.
A friend of mine who's a child psychologist and works a lot with children watched Miss Rachel. He was so funny. He says, "Oh my God, the woman has ADHD. I cannot watch this at all. No children should. she's so hyper,
I
she's
know.
almost manic. He
I
said
know.
he couldn't, it's not good. And a lot of families, when I was doing the early intervention, would say all the parents put their kids in front of Miss Rachel.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh, that's
I
not
know.
not so good.
I know. Okay, Cora, I don't know if she was in a breakout room. Let me. Hi, Cora. Were you on a break in a room? Did you get kicked out?
Hi, I believe I was kicked out of my meeting room.
What room were you in? Do you remember?
Room, yes, room one.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and place you back in room one, okay?
Oh, thank you.
I think you have to accept. Did you get the prompt?
No, I don't see it.
No? Okay.
Can you please try again?
I'm gonna put you on room two, but don't join it, okay? Because don't join that one. 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, and I'm gonna put you in room one. Okay, you should get it now. Did you get it?
I got the one that says room two, but I didn't select anything.
I
Um,
think people are coming back.
oh, yes, they're coming back either way, Cora. It's
Okay.
48 seconds. Yeah.
Jennifer,
Yes.
what time does everyone need to go? I thought it was 10:30. I want to make sure I'm
Yeah, at 10:30.
respectful.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
respectful of everybody's time.
And maybe if you can give them a little glimpse of part two of what we're planning for them.
About in terms of how
You're
we do this activities, those, yeah.
yeah. Just so they know, just so they could get excited about our next webinar. All right. Every
So before we talk about what might be next, I just want to ask what questions or thoughts your groups had and anybody would like to share. No burning questions. Hortensia, did you have something?
Oh, she did. Yeah.
Is there
Hello.
is there anything else that you would like to know about screen time that we didn't cover today, or you have a question?
I can jump in, but it's gonna echo because
Yeah, it does echo.
I think what was coming up for us was just how to start all education with validating people's real experience. I mean, this is a bigger conversation, but this is a capitalistic society that is really focusing not on our children's development and emotional health, but on what makes money. And I think some families have been sold this idea, or many families, all of us have been sold this idea that being up to date with technology is going to benefit our children. And so,
I think that's a really good point, and that's a little bit about what we're going to be talking about in our next.
sorry, we can't hear you, Nina. Maybe it's our.
Can you hear me, Jennifer?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we're having tech issues here.
So if you're three of you in a room, have everybody mute but one person. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about next time is the practicalities of what we've talked about today. How we talk to families, how we educate families, how we educate ourselves, how maybe we can help people set up a media plan, or we can come up with another name for it, because screen time is a piece of a larger issue in society, and how we can maybe support our parents as well as our children. Because there's an old saying, there's no baby without a mother. There was a man named Donald Winnicott who did a lot of work on this, but children don't exist in isolation. They are connected to their families, and we want to support everybody in that unit because everybody matters. So that's part of what we're going to be talking about next time. And we're going to be brainstorming together. So if you can think about it and pay attention, you don't have to take notes. I'm not trying to give you homework because you're all busy enough without homework. But just to notice in families what their thoughts are about it, how they approach it, what they think about it. Because you're right, some people think their children will fall behind or they won't be smart. There was like baby Einstein, which didn't do anything, by the way, doesn't work. And I laugh when people say their children want to be geniuses like Einstein. Einstein didn't talk till he was 9, and he was probably on the spectrum. So there were a lot of complications. You're not going to get them to be geniuses through Miss Rachel. You're more likely to do that you're more likely to encourage them to be the best of whoever they were meant to be by letting them play and be connected to you. But anyway, we're going to talk about that next time. And if any of you have any thoughts of what you'd like to include in our next session, please, if that's okay, Jennifer, for them to reach out to you. And what about when schools provide devices for children to take home at an early age? That they do. And that's how we have conversations with schools, how we have parents advocate for themselves in thoughtful, respectful ways. Because this has to be a dialogue. The schools have also been sold things, not necessarily based on what's best for the children. I train a lot of teachers and educators, and this is an ongoing conversation with them as well. How can we think about this? We've asked them what they think the most important thing in the room is for children to develop in the best way possible. And the thing is, it's them. They can have an empty room and still do okay with their children. One of them suggested, she said, we don't have much, but every morning we sing. We sing and we move our bodies. Well, I can't think of anything better for 3 and 4-year-olds to be doing in the morning. So, how we have conversations in all the spaces that we inhabit to support and respect people while we do it, because it's complicated. Don't want to be in a situation where we're judging or blaming. We want to improve things for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other
Well,
thoughts or questions? Go ahead, Jennifer.
yeah, just want to make sure nobody is left with any other thoughts. But like Dr. Newman said, we are hosting a part 2 next quarter. So this was just the foundation, right? In understanding the importance of screen and all the great information that you shared with us today. I don't think an hour and a half is enough. I think we can spend more hours talking about this topic, but again, in part 2, we'll get into the practical things. If there's something in particular you want Dr. Newman to keep in mind, add that in the evaluation. That's what it's for. So I'll drop the link there. Please fill it out. Don't leave without filling it out, because everything that you put in this evaluation will be shared with Dr. Newman to help reshape the next webinar for you guys. So please go ahead and do that. Dr. Newman, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so excited for part 2. This is great information, and I know it's hard to hear, but I think we need to hear it, and our family need to hear it too. So thank you. And yeah.
And thank you all. I really have appreciated all your input, your engagement. And every time I come to one of these, I learn as well, because I can't know every family out there, and you're bringing all the wealth of your experience, which matters so much. And I have really appreciated your time and engagement today. So thank you.